When we talk about detecting bad code, so I just listed there are multiple areas where you can go and find bad code, dead code, duplicate code, anti-patterns, non-documented function, etc., etc. What we have done is we have used AI detection and fixing engines. And then we have used a RAG model where we have written our own rule based engines and we try to map whether the fixing that is done by the AI is correct or not. Because understand our business, we are not in a business of code generation. When you're in a business of code generation, you can be, let's say, 50% of the time you can be not correct. Okay. And the end user won't care because he just wants some boilerplate code to be there. We are in a business of code cleaning. If we are wrong, you are actually breaking the production code for that particular company.
Welcome, everyone, to the AI Founders Podcast Show. Our podcast is dedicated to celebrating the remarkable accomplishments of AI innovators, entrepreneurs, and visionary founders, and the captivating stories behind the movements that they've built. I'm your host, Ryan Davies, and I have the honor of hosting today's episode, From Detection to Perfection, AI's Role in Detecting and Fixing Bad Code, with our special guest, Amartya Jha. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I cannot wait to dive into this one.
Same here, Ryan. Pretty
This
excited.
is going to be fantastic. For our audience, Amartya, just as a little bit of a background, co-founder and CEO of CodeAnt AI, which is backed by Y Combinator and Entrepreneur First. We're going to have a fun story about that right away. Failed 3 times with startups in the last 3 years before getting accepted into the program. We're going to talk about that. But, really when we're talking about the importance, we're going to focus on, again, what bad code is, impacting, how it is holding, startups back, businesses back, and the development of CodeAnt AI, which is a dev tool that enforces clean code effortlessly. It is fault tolerant, scalable, optimized for CPU, memory, and latency, fixes all kinds of the code issues with every change without breaking logic, detects and auto fixes. We're going to dive more into it. I'm going to let the expert take us away on that one here before we kick off. But really, to get started, give us a little bit about your background, what led you to found CodeAnt AI, and particularly in the context of addressing issues related to bad code.
Sure. And thanks a lot, Ryan, for such a lovely introduction. Uh, I was back in India and I was leading a tech team. And for the last 4 years, I was in the tech industry, leading teams of different sizes. I always felt this thing that more often than not, we are just neglecting bad code. Any engineer who's joining a team doesn't own the previous things that were done initially. It just tries to build on top. If your initial code is bad, the engineers doesn't care. They'll just care about that their changes are getting merged and they'll move ahead. We always found that engineers have to ship features faster and they don't care about fixing these things. And eventually, it leads to such a big issue that we have to redo the entire code. I was in Zeta and ShareChat. I had some experiences where we had to redo the entire infrastructure code end to end, the code that was written for 1.5 years. And it is very hard to do that. Why not? Companies should have mechanism where whenever a code is changed, they should be able to find it, what is bad in it, and they should be able to fix it. When I use this term bad, it's very non-deterministic. Let's make it very deterministic. A code that is duplicated 100 times, a code that has security vulnerabilities, a code which is dead, you're not using it anywhere, it's just lying there, a code which consumes lots of resources like CPU, memory, latency. This is an example of bad code. Today, when I was engineer and when I was tech lead, I always found, do we have any tool to accurately find it, plus also fix it? Because we as engineers, we really don't give a shit about, can you tell me 500 places where my code is bad?
Yeah.
I just want that you go ahead and fix it for me.
Yeah.
You better be sure that when you're fixing it, you're not breaking anything. Because if you'll break something, I'll throw you out. So that's exactly what the problem we also face. We thought, okay, let's build something from ground up. So it was July of 2023. I left my job and I joined Entrepreneur First. Entrepreneur First, for those who doesn't know, it's an awesome platform where you go and you can get a co-founder who's as vested as you are. So I met my co-founder there, Chinmay Bharti. Chinmay is a guy who has led software teams, build HFT products, and scale them. And he exactly knows how to build a software structures. And I had experience of scaling it. We clicked on the same vision that we want bad code to be automatically fixed by AI. We started building on it. In October, we formally started CodeAnt AI. And by November, we got into IC.
It's amazing. That is a good run there. Before we started, you told me a little bit about a story about YC, and maybe bucking the trend a little bit and blazing your own trail there, because our audience is so heavily founded. We've got a lot of founders, people looking to get into this space. Tell our audience that story a little bit more. I think it's just a fascinating, very cool story to kind of talk about your persistence and, again, just how great the idea is and what you're trying to build here.
YC is one of the biggest platform where young age founders can directly go and literally change the dynamics of their startup. I'll be very honest here. When we were back in India, we were having a very hard time raise a pre-seed round. We were doing anything to get that. And you see the YC process is just 10 minutes of interview. If
Yep.
you just do 10 minutes good, you are into the YC batch. And that's the huge, huge advantage. How it worked for us was we got a first call and it was the YC call. After 3 years of applying, for the first time I got the interview. So I was very excited. I met all the Indian founders who were back, basically YC batchmates in their previous batches. I met them. I asked them how to actually go about those 10 minutes. So everybody gave me some advice. Say this, be this, approach like this. And we got ton of advices. We got confused. And when we went into the interview, we just didn't portray who we are, what we are building, and what problem we are solving. We were just in the mindset that we have to be as a get liked by these people. And that didn't work for us. So we got a rejection mail from Y Combinator. The good thing about that rejection mail was that mail always talks about the things that you didn't do. And for us, it was majorly the product that they were questioning. How many times a user is using the product? Can this product actually scale? Can it do engineers actually fix their bad code every day or not? So it was not on the business end, it was more on the product end. And this actually worked for us because we had all the metrics that it actually works. We have 500 engineers using the product every day, fixing code every day. So we just took the metric from our AWS and we copy pasted it. So that was the only question. So why my YC group partner was very kind enough and he was like, okay, there are two things that could have happened, I guess, right now. He could have seen the hustle that these guys went ahead, got the entire data, shot the entire video of the product, and sent it to him. So either it could have been the hustle or it could have been the numbers. He was very kind enough and he told me, okay, let's do one more call of 10 minutes. So another call happened, and this was with Michael Siebel. So we went to the call. Michael was there, and Michael just started interviewing us again. And in the next 7 minutes, he knew everything about what we are building, and that's an insane thing about YC. You won't believe YC interviews ton of companies. They have actually the insight of every company what they're building in which space. That's the awesome thing. So Michael came in next 7 minutes. We convinced Michael that we are building an awesome thing. We would love to get into YC. And Michael was convinced. And last 3 minutes, we were like, okay, we did it. So that was the journey. I would suggest that if you're right, and if you know that the data that is thrown at you, you can actually show them that you have done something, then they'll obviously agree to it. And YC is very kind enough in this.
That's amazing. I love that story. I wanted to make sure we put that there because I think it's just such again, it's so fitting for our audience, people to hear that and take something a little bit above and beyond what we were here to talk about today. But let's shift gears into that part. Let's talk about CodeAnt AI, its ability to leverage AI to identify and detect bad code. Let, Give us a little bit of a rundown on that. Are there specific patterns or indicators the system looks for, and how accurate is that process?
Correct. So when we talk about detecting bad code, so I just listed there are multiple areas where you can go and find bad code, dead code, duplicate code, anti-patterns, non-documented function, etc., etc. What we have done is we have used AI detection and fixing engines. And then we have used a RAG model where we have written our own rule based engines and we try to map whether the fixing that is done by the AI is correct or not. Because understand our business, we are not in a business of code generation. When you're in a business of code generation, you can be, let's say, 50% of the time you can be not correct. Okay. And the end user won't care because he just wants some boilerplate code to be there. We are in a business of code cleaning. If we are wrong, you are actually breaking the production code for that particular company. Correct? So,
Yep.
how we go about it? First, we use AI and rule based engines to detect bad code. So, there are a lot of open source tools that you can use if you want to build your own. You can go and use SonarQube, open source detection. You can use some linters detection, but they are very limited. They won't detect high things like where memory clogging is happening, where latency is actually coming, where CPU throttling is happening, and what are the different parameters of that. That's A. Second, let's say you have built a comprehensive engine of detection. The next thing is fixing. How we go about is we have used AI for fixing, plus we have written more than 1,000 rule-based engines, handwritten. These are basically your AST parsers. Every language has its own abstract syntax tree. We play around with that and we pass that AST to give you the exact place where you need to change your bad code with a good code. So all my engineers are actually the engineers who have worked in high trading frequency firms. And they have scaled basically the code bases and optimized it for even 20 millisecond of latency. Uh, so these guys are pro in this. So we wrote all the ASTs and we are actually writing more ASTs every day. And we are training on that and creating this as a RAG module so that every time our response is generated for fixing by AI, we can check by our rule-based engines and then only we can suggest it to the end user so that he's 100% sure that whatever it is coming is correct.
That is yeah, that's phenomenal to be able to go through to that level and really, detect and fix. One of the fascinating aspects as well, also as you mentioned, is not just recognizing in that high accuracy, but the ability to correct bad code. Explain a little bit more about that and the role that AI plays in that correction process, and just really again the impact that has. You mentioned, off the top about how you're not breaking logic, so you don't have to worry about stuff going in and not getting fixed properly. Just again, our audience, to be able to implement something like this, some of the efficiencies and some of the things they'll achieve as a result.
Sure. I'll just take a customer case study here without naming the customer. So basically, we got a big customer who was in HR tech. They build software for HR platforms, and we connected to their company. We deployed CodeAnt AI there. You won't believe, in next 3 days of deployment, they fixed more than 30,000 bad code instances. 30,000,
Wow.
the entire team. They documented more than 8 years of code base in the next 3 days. That's the impact. And the confidence that they got by using our tool was by the fact that they started making small PRs on particular files. How it works is we directly get integrated in your GitHub or Bitbucket. We get a list of all the repositories which are there, and you can bulk fix up to 200 files in a single go. And that adds a lot of value to these kind of companies. So they went ahead, they created PR for one or two file. Their tech leadership engineering team sat together, they reviewed each and every PR, and they were like, okay, this is good. It's not breaking anything. And they ran the entire regression test suite, testing test suite, etc. And it passed. And they were like, okay, good enough. can we increase from one file to 10 files, 50 files? And ultimately, they went ahead and fixed 500 files in bulk in a single go. That's what we are giving it to them. Now, coming to not giving, to be honest, we are not perfect right now. We are evolving. What we do is, if we know we don't have a fixing for this, but we have a crazy detection for this, and we are not sure whether the fixing that we are going to give is accurate or not, we don't display it to you. You will never get that. You'll just get a detection. Because the last thing that I want is my enterprise clients coming back to me and telling me that the code fix that you have done today actually broke the entire testing module.
Right. Yeah.
So that's something which we don't want. And that is why we are spending huge amount of time, not just on the AI stuff, but building an actual SaaS layer, which is a ground up AST parsers that can help us.
So with that, I mean, I think that's an incredible real world example of how organizations can experience significant improvement after addressing and correcting bad code and what that looks like. From the other side, what are some of the impacts and challenges that they face when they're dealing with it? Like from a development standpoint, operational standpoint, like when you're able to go in and do this and see the other end of it, what does that organization really, what are they able to see and embrace and see the benefits of that?
I'll just talk about a developer journey. How it works is you join a team or you take a new project. You are always told to contribute on the existing pieces of code which is already written. Correct? The first journey of a developer is go there, try to understand the entire code base
Yep.
with good context, and then start contributing on it. More often than not, every engineer is different. The way they have written the code base is different. Someone will write one line documentation of that function, someone will write 10 line documentation. There's no standardization. That's one problem. We help auto document the entire code with processing logic. So developers who is contributing will be able to understand what the code base is. This is done. Second thing is, as a developer, whenever I try to commit on any existing code base, I go and refactor that code base a bit. I want to make sure that the code base which is existing is good enough. Because if I'm putting some crazy ass algorithm on top of it, I want it to work as good. But if the underlying code is not good enough, it will not give me the same performance. So I'll invest some time on cleaning that code up. Okay. For companies, the biggest pain point is when we talk from to the biggest enterprises, they actually know what they want their developers to follow. They actually have a very good set of policies that they want to enforce on developers. But the problem is these policies exist in Google Docs. It's like, I met a client, it is one India's largest fintech. They're $7 billion in valuation. We are doing a paid pilot there. The problem is this client has all the good practices in 3 hour videos in a Google Doc. No engineer has time to actually go and see because they have to ship features faster.
Yep.
So they want everything to be enforced while they are writing the code. So we have an editor extension that whenever you're writing code, then and there it will prompt you if you do something wrong. Let's say you didn't add docstring, you didn't add type hinting. Your code is bad, your code is not scalable, not optimized. It will prompt you. It will prompt you. You don't have to ask him questions. That's the one thing that we have done. That is the second developer engagement. Third is whenever a developer went from understanding the code base, refactoring the code base, it is now the time that developer will start contributing on top of it. Correct? Collaborating, contributing, and pushing the peers. Understand his journey also. When he's building a product, he is told to build a minimum viable product, even in the biggest MNCs. He is told to ship the smallest feature or smallest version of that feature that actually works. He's not told to create an optimized feature. He's just told to create a smallest feature.
Mm-hmm.
And in that journey, when developers don't understand the thing that they have to optimize it, or they don't have time to optimize it, they push substandard features. So that is where we also come in. We tell you that whenever you push any PR, we'll scan that PR and auto tell you that these are the pain points that you haven't addressed. And by doing this, you can actually fix it. So we want to do the heavy lifting out from you. So this is how we understood the developer journey and wanted to be there in all 3 areas.
I like that. I think that's a really great understanding, and again, for our listeners to be able to understand, what some of these benefits are, what it's going to mean to them to be able to tackle this and address these challenges before it kind of goes, out of hand for them. Like you said, now obviously you get 30,000 plus, instances of it happening, and what does that mean, and how does it go when it comes to, the future trends, both AI and in the software development industry, looking ahead. How do you envision the role of AI in the context of development, but specifically in terms of code quality and improvements and error prevention?
Going forward, basically getting from an idea to actual running production code will be commoditized. Anyone, whether it's a developer, product designer, manager, anyone will be able to take their ideas and create a production level code that will actually scale. Correct? This is the journey that I believe will happen in next 3 to 5 years. You won't have very specific SDEs that you require to do that. Your systems will be able to help you here. Now, coming to on the other side, how do we see it? We believe that going forward, companies like code completion companies like OpenAI or AutoCopilot or Replit, etc., they'll help us in this journey. Second, we need tools. There'll be a lot of tools that will come out. Tools for detecting bad code and fixing it. Tools for doing automated QA without breaking the existing logics. And understanding the dynamics whenever a code is changing. Right now, all your testing is static. Making sure that testing is dynamic, making sure your code based scanning is dynamic and giving you problems then and there. These kind of tools will emerge and they'll take the center stage. Why? Because if code generation from idea to production is commoditized, there'll be a lot of gatekeepers who will come into picture, who will take the role and tell you that, okay, is this actually a good code? You can actually put it in production, but will it cost you $10,000 to run, or will it cost you $100,000 to run? Correct? And how we can reduce the cost by making your code better. That is where AI will play a significant role. And we will need not just AI, but pure engineering also to make the AI better.
I think that's a great journey of what's to kind of come here down the path, and how you've really kind of positioned yourself for great long-term success, and for CodeAnt to really take off from that side of things. For, as we're kind of winding down here on the episode, for our AI business founders that are tuning in, what advice would you offer based on your experience in navigating, the challenges and opportunities within this industry, especially in that context of AI driven solutions for code improvement?
For code improvement, correct. I would tell folks, try to understand how you fix any bad code today. Because if we know the steps, like I take 5 steps to fix this database injection issues, correct?
Yeah.
What is those 5 steps? I'll simply write it down. These are the exact 5 steps that AI will also do, correct? Another thing is there can be an intelligent step, which is like, I want to see what is my current traffic pattern. Depending upon that, I'll do something like this. These are the such stuff which AI might not know today, but it will know in the future. It's your job role, if you're a software engineer, to figure these trends out. And I would love if you guys can build something internally in your companies. Go ahead, try to figure out the patterns, how we can make the current AI way more efficient for my company.
Yeah.
Can I use this AI and give the power to understand my current traffic patterns, current error patterns, current usage patterns, and so forth, and use the data and correlate with how the code is written. If I know that this piece of code is called 100,000 times and this piece of code is called one time from my traffic data, can I just use AI to automatically fix all those things? And this is, as an engineer, you can actually do that. And this is exactly what we are doing.
Yeah.
But I would love if you guys also can do and pick this up in the company, because we have a very solid motto. We are not building CodeAnt AI because we really wanted to. We really did want it to, but I was there and we faced that ton of bad code is written. And developers like you and me really want to ship new things, exciting things. We don't want to fix the same things again and again. These are mundane tasks for us. Let's automate it.
That's perfect. I think that's a great place for us to kind of. I love giving that last piece of advice and things like that. But Amartya, before we go here, I want to put you in contact with our audience and give them the opportunity to get in contact with you as well, because I'm sure there's people listening here going, yeah, this is something I need to be a part of. This is, like you said, this is something maybe I need to bring in and try and do in house, or, bring you to help us do it. So I know it's CodeAnt.ai is the website, but for getting in contact, what's the best way for us to be able to do that and to learn more?
I'll drop my LinkedIn, which is Amartya-Jha. And also, you can reach out to me at Amartya@CodeAnt AI. I'm pretty active on my emails. Would love to chat with any of you.
Perfect. I think that's the great invitation for our audience. I always love doing that because they listen to you. We've got a key opinion, key thought leader in this area, and then they go, okay, now what? How do I get more, right? How can I apply this to myself? So definitely take advantage of Amartya's offer and join, get on LinkedIn, contact him, send emails, whatever you need to do. But I think this is something that, like you said, the next 3 to 5 years, the acceleration, that's just like everything with AI, it's going to become so mainstream. But this is something where you want to be on it today, making sure you got those pieces, those processes, like you mentioned, documented it in place. So with that, I want to say, Amartya, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing all of your information, sharing everything, in the area, and also a little bit about your journey too. I love the opening story. I think that's just for our listeners, such a wonderful lesson. So much great here to unpack. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And for our listeners, thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through AI innovation. We hope you've been inspired by the incredible stories that were shared today. And remember, the future is driven by pioneers like our guest, Amartya Jha, and the limitless possibility of AI. Stay curious, stay innovative, keep exploring the boundless horizons of technology. But before we sign off, we have a small request for our dedicated listeners. Always, if you've enjoyed our podcast, take a moment, share it, leave a review, subscribe on your favorite platform. It's your feedback and your support that helps us bring more amazing, incredible guests like Amartya Jha to join us and share their knowledge and help all of us grow and learn more about AI. And so with that, I will say thank you again, everybody. Thank you, Marty, for joining us here today. This is Ryan Davies signing off, and take care.